address that was just aired on national television and other platforms across the country. This morning, we're joined by the Minister responsible for Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh. Doc, let me ask you to join me right here, who will make some opening remarks, and after that, we would invite the heads of agencies to present the details to us. Morning and welcome, Doc.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I think one fact we can all attest to is that the power has not been as consistently on as we all expect. Some have labeled it a return of dumsɔ, and some have called it dundum and whatever. This morning we are here basically with Ghana Great Company to try and explain to Ghanaians that what is happening is not as a result of a generational problem or fuel shortage, but really some technical difficulties and challenges one or two institutions might be going through. So without much ado, even though GREDCO has been consistently coming out with press releases and press statements as to the cause of every power outage, we want them to take the opportunity of not only informing Ghanaians, of also reassuring us that what we are experiencing in a short time will be a thing of the past. Thank you. So I invite Mr. Amwakoba, the CEO of Ghana Great Company, to speak with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I would also invite my Director of System Operations to come, and then he will tell us the outline of what we are going to have, and then later we'll give you the full details of. And he is in the person of Engineer Mark Barr. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is the mic on? Yes, I think it's on.
No, it's not. It's green. It's red. It should be green, I think.
Hello. Yeah, it's on. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister for Energy, Honorable Minister for Information, members of the press, Chief Executive, thank you very much for having me here for us to explain what has been happening so far and what we as utilities are doing about it. Indeed, as the Honorable Minister for Energy said, since the beginning of the year, we have been experiencing power interruptions in the network. And this has been primarily due to the fact that the transmission system in particular has some weaknesses and bottlenecks, which we are trying to address but have not finished yet. So we have had intermittent outages, sometimes transmission lines tripping off from the southwestern part of the country, affecting the entire system, particularly Kumasi. And this culminated, you remember, on March 7th, when the entire system collapsed as a result of cascaded trips which emanated from the western region. Beyond this, Ashanti region, in particular Kumasi, has been experiencing intermittent outages, particularly in the evenings during peak times. And all this is basically because of the fact that our power system has grown in terms of demand. In fact, for the first time this year, we have crossed 3,000 megawatts in terms of demand. We Power Authority, or the We Hydroelectric Power Plant, happens to be the only power plant which is in the central part of the country. It supplies part of the central part, and the rest of the load is met by generation from down south. Currently, as I'm talking to you now, we have had to shut down the Bui plant because of the low water level in the dam. In view of this, every power that the country requires, wherever, up to Bolgatangawa, everything has to come from the coast, from down south, upwards towards the north. Kumasi happens to be the major central point within the system, heavy load. By the time the power gets to Kumasi, the voltage is so low. Okay, when voltages are low, you switch on your light, it's almost dim. Normally people call it low current. It's actually low voltage. The voltage becomes so low, and if we don't do anything about it to prop up the voltage, the entire system will collapse. So it happens that during the evenings, peak hours, when the voltages are so low, sometimes we've resorted to taking off some feeders, particularly in Kumasi, in order to prop up the voltages. So you will have Kumasi continue to experience this outage situation. So we've noted that inherent problem, and there was a partial solution to it, whereby we moved one transformer from Accra to Kumasi. I'm saying partial because that is not the entire solution. There are also bottlenecks within the network in Greater Accra region, where our substations get overloaded. So once in a while, you see overloads and then interruptions. Let me also add that these interruptions are not only due to problems within the transmission network. When you are in your homes, as a customer, you are connected to the distribution network. ECG is bringing power to you. ECG is connected to the transmission network because power is coming through Gridco. And Gridco is bringing all the power from the generating companies. So between you in your homes or in your factories and the generating companies, you are actually physically linked. Any break in this link can result in a power outage. So there can be a problem in the distribution network, in the transmission, or the generation. Besides that, these generators need fuel to generate. And in Ghana, almost all the power plants use gas. You notice that, maybe to bring it in sharp memory, yesterday there was some outage in certain parts of Accra. I'm sure those who were driving around the airport coming to Legon. Everything was normal, and we were informed by WAPCO, operators of the gas pipeline, that we need to drop 2 generators in Tema because there wasn't enough gas. At every moment, supply and demand will have to be will have to be equal. So once you are shutting down a generator, it means that the demand, as we are drawing, the demand should also come down in order for supply and demand to be equal. So when there was no gas and the generators were tripping off, it means that we had to advise ECG to also come down on this load, and that resulted in the power outage yesterday. I must say that from the beginning of the year, we have also had some interruptions within the gas sector, and that also affects reliability of supply to you. So as I'm saying, there are issues within the electrical network transmission and distribution, which sometimes causes outages, and also there are issues within the gas sector, which also affects us. So when the lights go off, this could be the various reasons that happen. In order to address these challenges, we are putting together a number of projects. So currently, we are constructing the Pokwasi substation, the Kaswa substation, These two substations are being funded under the Millennium Challenge Compact 2 projects. So MIDA is managing that funding for us. So you have Pokwase and Kaswa. And then we have projects that are being funded by AFD, Agence Française de Développement. And they are financing major transmission line projects from Tema to Accra and to Malam. Tema is now a major generation hub. More than 1,000 megawatts are being generated in Tema. So we need massive transmission capacity to bring that. Let me come to Pokwase. Pokwase is in the northern parts of Accra, and Pokwase is now going to be a hub where the power that is being evacuated from Abuazi on the 330 kV will now come to Pokwase before being sent to Tema. Pokwase will now allow ECG the flexibility to meet demand in the northern parts of Accra, and then in case that there are challenges elsewhere in Accra, load can always be moved elsewhere. So Pokwase will improve supply reliability in that area. In addition, I talked about the Kaswa bulk supply point. Kaswa, in the western part of Accra is in the central region by somewhere, is sprawling, and the demand is so much in Kaswa. So analysis show that we need to build a substation in Kaswa. Kaswa currently is being supplied from Malam and then from Winneba, and that is accompanied by a lot of outages and so much losses within the distribution network because of the length. So Kaswa is being constructed, and that will also be completed somewhere in August, September. Pokwase will be completed by June, July. To address the Kumasi problem, the Kumasi Kintambo project is being built and will be completed by July this year. Also, the Ministry of Energy has taken a decision. As we analyzed, we saw that it is best if we could get a generator around Kumasi. So the ministry has taken a decision that the Ameri power plant should be moved to Kumasi. So efforts are being put in place to ensure that gas infrastructure is sent to Kumasi to feed the Ameri power plant once that movement is done. When this is completed, our system will become even more resilient. So these are the challenges we are facing and efforts that we are putting in place to make sure that the outages that we are experiencing will be a thing of the past. And we believe that by June, July, when all these projects are being completed, Ghanaians will now enjoy reliable power. But in order for them to be completed, the contractors on these projects have requested for outages. Because as they build, they have to connect it to the current system. So it is just like maybe you've invited an electrician to your house to come and fix some problem, and he comes and says, "Sir, madam, I have to switch off the mains for safe working space. Otherwise, somebody could die." And then madam could say that I'm preparing jollof, so I'm going to blend some tomatoes, so give me 30 minutes. It is the same thing in the larger grid. The contractors have asked for outages between now and July in order to complete the projects. We are talking of 330,000 volts. In our house, we have only 240 volts, and that can even kill. So they will be coming to us to request these outages. And when this happens, we grant them this outage. It means that some of us will have to go off. We are now working with ECG on the quantum of these outages and how long it will take. And we are also discussing with the contractor to, as much as possible, minimize the duration so that we will have the minimum impact of outages on customers. So we'll be coming to Ghanaians on this. And these outages are going to affect only Accra, I repeat, only Accra and Winneba. It is not nationwide. Pokuase, the 330 came from Abuaze. We are diverting it to Pokuase. And in order for you to divert it, you have to disconnect the 330 kV network. Otherwise, somebody will burn to death. So that is why it's going to happen. So in Kaswa, we are going to connect the existing lines from Cape Coast and Winneba, connect it to the Kaswa substation and continue to Accra. In order to do that, you have to take those lines off, and it will affect supply. So that is why we'll be coming to Accraians and Winnebaans and say that these are the outages that are going to happen. It will affect you for a duration. And because by the time we will come out, we will know exactly the amounts and the duration, we would want to inform those who will be affected how it will be done so that they can plan their lives. So please, let us go from this place knowing that these outages will be designed for only Accra and Winneba. They won't affect the rest of the country. So, Chief, I guess this is the brief, and then members of the press, if anybody has a question, I think I'll hand over to the Minister of Information.
Well, I want to reiterate, as he said, that this is only going to happen in Accra and Winneba. It is not going to be nationwide. And at appropriate times, we would come to Ghanaians or the Accra people and the Winneba people to inform them of what is happening and then the outages that are required.
Okay.
Sorry, no problem. Colleagues, it's a good time to take your questions. So if you have questions, you can signal us. We'll give you an opportunity to ask those questions of GRIDCO, and then they will provide responses to your questions. So my understanding of what you've delivered to us is that there will be some programmed outages to facilitate the improvement works that have been planned, correct?
That is right.
Okay, all right. So do I have takers? 1, 2, is there a third? Well, let's start with you.
All right, so we spoke to, my name is Kweku Asante, Joy News. We spoke to the head of public relations on Joy a few days back on this same issue, and according to him, yes, and according to him, they were in the process of publishing a timetable for the country in terms of the power outages, for Accra, for instance, or wherever it will be affected. I want to know the information on that. And then, according to the boss of ASEP, there is a certain infrastructure in the system, which is sort of like a stabilizer, which is now operating at 25% capacity, so that when, this is a bit technical, so that if, let's say, people are putting on their power and other things, and the system is being overwhelmed, this stabilizer comes in to try and stabilize the system. It says now this system is only operating at 25% capacity. I want to give if there's any update on that.
Okay.
My name is Joseph Armstrong. I work with TV3. So, quick question, just to add up to what you said. So, how soon is Accra going to get maybe a load shedding or a timetable so that at least we those that will live in Dumsɔ that we experience this very often will prepare for it, you know? And then the next question is could these challenges be as a result of inadequate funds to GRIDCO and all the power supply sectors? Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, are there any other questions? So let me just go over them. There was a comment supposed to have been made by the PRO of GRIDCO that there's a process ongoing to put together a timetable for these programmed outages that you are mentioning is necessary for the improvement works. Has that process been completed? I think to tie that in with the last question, how soon can that program be announced so that people are also clear in their mind that according to the program, you go off on this date so that the improvement works can take place in your area? So we'll put those two together. Then there's another question about a stabilizer that is supposed to be operating at 25%. Is that a matter of fact? Is it true? And does that mean that it is being overworked or underworked, or there's room for it to work better to tone down on the programmed outages? Kweku, am I getting your question well? And then there's a third question about, is there a challenge with funding? For which reason any of these issues are also being occasioned?
Very much, Honorable Minister. To talk about the timetable, I believe that when my Director of System Operations was speaking, and I also added my voice to it, that when the time comes, we would inform Ghanaians. Currently, what we are doing, we have to be sure, because you cannot go and take off power and do nothing. We have to be sure of the time and the extent. So we are liaising with the contractors, not only the contractors. ECG is also involved. MIDA, who is the project funding agency, is also involved. We are dealing with all these people to come up with a comprehensive timetable. And this timetable, as we said, is only for Accra and Winneba. It is not a nationwide thing. It is only for Accra and Winneba. Let's get that right, so that we don't go and say that there's a national timetable for load shedding or dumsɔ or whatever it is. That is not the case. This is the timetable which they are asking for outages in order to complete the works for the system to be resilient, so that we wouldn't have the intermittent outages that we are having. The stabilizer that he's talking about, I don't know what type of stabilizer that he's talking about, because we don't have stabilizers in our system. What we employ in our systems are capacitor banks and static VAR compensators to improve voltages. And as we speak now, all the capacitor banks that we have and the static VAR compensator that we have, they are all working as we speak now. In his talk, he talked about Kumasi. We found out that because the voltages are low in Kumasi, we need to install such a device in Kumasi. And thankfully, in the budget for 2021, it was stated that that project is going to be undertaken. So we are waiting to get all the documentation in order to install that device in Kumasi. So that one also will be part of the mitigating actions that we are taking in order to stabilize the power situation in Kumasi. Inadequate funding. We have funds enough to undertake routine maintenance, emergency maintenance. But then for bigger projects, that one we require external funding. And that is why we are waiting on the Ministry of Finance to give us the go-ahead for the projects that we intend to embark on that have been stated in the budget for 2021. The ones that we are undertaking, like the Tema to Achimota to Malam one, the Kaswa and the Pokwase one, we have secured the fundings already. That is why the projects are ongoing.
Thank you, Engineer. Is there a final batch of questions? Abednego. Any others? This will be the final. So when Abednego is done, I'll ask of you to just give us a 2.5-minute summary in Chi, so that our colleagues from the Chi networks can also get a good soundbite. I hope your Chi is impeccable. Abednego, let's hear you.
Yeah. Good morning, Honorable. You're from Abednego, Asante Adom FM. And my question I'm person is, apart from exercise or more, do we have issues as far as generation is concerned? Your problem with generation is and so issues about energy sector, a legacy debt, is the government at your area and I say, thank you.
Okay, so just a quick one. Just to find out, are we still enjoying free electricity in this country? And could you also amount to the challenges that we are faced with today? Thank you.
Let me quickly deal with that one. You know that as a matter of fact, free water and free electricity was extended to the end of March by His Excellency the President. Today is the 1st of April. So I think there are facts that are available to you that must be put in very clear context. The President announced clearly an extension to the end of March. Today is the 1st of April. So I'll save you of that one. Do we have a generation issue? And then maybe when Minister is doing his closing comments, he may generally speak to the issue of energy sector legacy issues that are being dealt with. So do we have a generation issue? And then there was a question of has the free electricity of the period contributed in any way to this one? I've answered the question of are we enjoying it now? But there was a question in there that I think you have to take. Has it contributed to your demand and the issues you're having in any way?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Generation. Currently, the total installed capacity in Ghana is in excess of 5,000 megawatts, 5,080 megawatts. Can you hear me? 5,080. The highest demand ever, in Ghana, which occurred, I think somewhere this month, is 3,171 megawatts. Okay. I said 5,000, but that doesn't mean that all the 5,000 are always available. Sometimes we can have about 3,500 available. Others are down because of maintenance issues or faults or things like that. So there is still enough room to meet the rest of the demand. And this demand that I'm talking of, the 3,171, is not only Ghana demand, but includes our neighboring countries that we export power to. So there is enough generation to go round. So there's no generation shortage. However, there can be 1 or 2 hours like what happened yesterday, that you are there and the WAPCO calls or Ghana Gas calls that there is a problem with the infrastructure, gas is going down, so drop down here, drop down here. Those intermittent issues do happen. But generally, there's no generation shortage, there's enough to go around, everybody. Thank you.
Then talking about whether free electricity has any impact, I believe that, yes, it would, but it means that if people are getting it free, they will consume more. So that is why the demand has gone up to 3,171. But when demand goes up, what happens is that you need to transport the electricity to where it is being demanded. And it passes through the wires, and sometimes the wires get congested, as he spoke about in the Kumasi case, and you would need to drop some of the load in order for the required amount to be able to go through. That's the main reason why we are even building the Angumaso to Kintampo transmission line, because all the power going to the north and the ones going to Kumasi all come to Kumasi and congest at our substation at Ridge, And when that happens, the voltages go down and we need to drop the voltages. When we finish building this Angumaso to Kintampo line, the power going to the north will not pass through central Kumasi. It's a sort of like a diversion. It's like if you have a road and you have very many cars and there's congestion, you build other roads for the cars to pass on that road in order to free where the congestion is. So that is what we have done. And we believe that when we finish this Angumaso to Kintampo transmission line, the congestion will be eased and more people in Kumasi would have the opportunity to consume more if it still remains free.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. I think you can resume your seats currently. Honorable Minister responsible for energy joins us. Before I give him the final word, just to, I'm very sorry. I mentioned earlier that you would do a quick summary in chief for us later. So you take your seat. When Minister is done with his closing remarks, I'll let you do a quick chief summary for the benefit of our local partners. Minister.
Thank you. the truth of the matter is that government has put in place a mechanism where every generator, every transmitter, every distributor of electricity is paid something regularly, what we call the cash waterfall mechanism. Government has also introduced, and it will start very soon, a gas clearinghouse, where more funds will be made available to the suppliers of the fuel for these generators. The recently passed budget, government has made available a Delta Fund that is also going to contribute to the payment of these debts that are owed. So it's not because of a debt that this power outage is concerned. And I would like to conclude by saying that the challenges that are being faced will definitely sometime lead to maybe a power outage here or there. But this, like the technical people just said, it's not because of a generational problem. Yesterday's power outage, we have been explained to us, was caused by a reduced pressure of the gas that is going to the generator. That could not have been foreseen or planned by anybody. And so because most of our generators are now relying on gas, and gas comes through only a few pipelines to all these generators, and the effect of a gas shortage affects many more generators than if individual plants were being fueled by diesel or crude oil independently. So these are challenges we have to continuously build the infrastructure and our systems to be able to have a redundancy in the system to minimize these outages. And we hope that Ghanaians would be with us in these trying times so that we can improve the system to get the consistent electricity that we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. So our colleagues from the Chi Networks, I'll get engineer on standby for you right when we are done, and then he will do a quick Chi translation for us. Just to recap the key issues. Number one, as has been explained to us, there are no generation challenges. So for those who are making the argument that, we are not able to generate as much power as is required, and therefore dumsɔ is back, I think the answer has been quite clearly outlined that there are no generation challenges. There are no challenges with funds for expansion works, as has also been explained. So again, for those who say it's because GridCo doesn't have money for expansion works, etc., that's why some of these challenges have occurred. Again, it's been explained that that is not correct. GridCo has also explained that there's a need to program outages in Accra and Winneba for improvement works, because the works 3,300 volts. 330,000 volts. They can't be dealing with it while those transmitters and bulk stations are on. So there's a need to do this programmed out. And that residents in Accra and Winneba will be informed of the times and the tenor for the programmed outages for improvement works. That's the feedback I take from what you've delivered to us. Minister has also explained to us the various sources of funds available to deal with the broader energy sector legacy issues. And so we're grateful for that brief. Minister, we are grateful to you. GridCo and ECG, we are grateful to you. Colleagues, we'll leave it here. We thank you for your time. And our team from GridCo will be on standby. So for our Chi brothers, please just come forward. They'll do a quick Chi translation for you here. Thank you very much. We'll see you hopefully after Easter.